now.
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Where do we begin with this extremely divisive and polarizing movie? This movie that laid the avalanche of DCEU fanatics swearing up and down that this franchise has a lot of gems inside of it. Well, we have to get to the crux of the argument, the crux of the situation, which is the build-up for Batman v Superman. Now, the first DCEU movie was, of course, Man of Steel. This movie was supposed to be the sequel to Man of Steel 2. But they decided to throw a spanner in the works and decided, hey, let's get Batman in the film. Maybe the film will generate more hype and more revenue. Now, this was a movie that was years in the making, something that I don't even know how studio executives would even make possibly disappointing, because the premise is simple. Batman and Superman, two colossal titans going at it. And all you have to do is make it thoroughly entertaining for the masses. I don't understand where they went wrong, but once again, years in the making, a lot of people had hype for it. A lot of people wanted to see Batman and Superman on the silver screen. A lot of references were in other movies. Like, I remember the I Am Legend teaser and people speculating, oh, is that a Batman versus Superman poster? I saw that reference and I thought to myself, wow, if they greenlight this project, if they decided to give the fans what they want, this opportunity could be exponentially huge. It's not uncommon either. You see these heroes bicker and fight almost every day in comic book medium. You can see Bruce and Clark duke it out in The World's Finest, a great animated movie. Hell, even if your search constitutes to something a bit more mature, then I would recommend checking out Frank Miller's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. Batman: The Dark Knight Returns is a story about an older Bruce Wayne, which is Bruce has given up the cowl for an odd number of years. He's weary about everything, and crime is going up in Gotham. Now, this does draw parallels with Batman v Superman, especially those elements of Bruce being older and the giant bat suit that he has, the giant armor suit that he uses at the end of the movie to fight Superman with, is a clear homage to The Dark Knight Returns. Anyway, we're gonna get into the meat of why I did not like Batman v Superman, but I guess I'll start on a lighthearted tone. I guess I will start positive, and I will talk about the things that I did like, the things that were executed well with this movie upon reflecting back to Batman v Superman. I will say number one is, I thought the movie was beautifully shot. Zack Snyder never makes a movie that looks ugly to look at. There's always nice wide shots, even though the color is pretty much dark and gray and mysterious and all that shit. I did enjoy how this movie looked. The CGI looked pretty decent. I enjoyed it. Zack Snyder movies are always shot really, really well. He always has some affinity for his camera work, and it really shows here. So that's one thing I will say about Batman v Superman. It's not ugly to look at on the silver screen at all. I will say that Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and Ben Affleck as Batman really stood out to be shine-outs in this movie. The reason I say that is because Gal Gadot has this whole playful, charismatic vibe to her, and while Bruce Wayne is also charismatic, he has this brooding, sinister pain to his character that he really embodies on well. I think there were elements that they did do with Batman that I really enjoyed. Ben Affleck was very physically imposing as well. He really fit that description of someone that can easily mess you up 6 ways from Sunday, someone that easily trained with a secret legion of ninjas, learned all these crazy kung fu techniques, and it really shows in the choreography, the stunts, everything. He moves and feels like Batman. I'm right there with people. I don't think that we had a better Batman since Bale, and even Bale, his Batman was not perfect. He sounded like he chewed on 9,000 cigarettes a day. So the voice changer, these little subtle moments of swagger here or there for Bruce Wayne, the interchangeable characteristics really sealed the deal for me. And overall, as a nice package, I will say there was one scene in particular, the warehouse scene. You know which one it is, where Batman is literally turning on his Batman Arkham Asylum mode. He's dodging, he's beating people down. That scene was executed so good, and it's one of the best Batman fights that I ever seen in modern cinema. Oh, fucking righty then. It's time to stop hitting this movie with kid gloves. Replace it with an Everlast glove. Put a couple of rocks in there and sock it right in the face with some negativity. What I've been dying to talk about, because the negatives outweigh the positives. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, holy fuck, what were they thinking over Bryan Cranston? Bryan Cranston! That decision still boggles my mind to this day. They picked Jesse Eisenberg over Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor, and the material that they gave Jesse Eisenberg made him look like a jittering Neanderthal. I know what people are going to be thinking. There's always different comic book universes and multiverses out there. There's always different renditions on characters. I get it. I get that. However, this rendition is so bad. He reminds me of the Riddler from Batman Forever. I think it was Batman Forever, the one with Val Kilmer or whatever. He reminds me of Jim Carrey's Riddler and some random Joker amalgamation thrown into one character. And this really does not remind me of the powerful manipulating force that is Lex Luthor. Need I remind you, he became the president, he became the mayor. He was so smart in Superman Red Son that someone advised Superman that if you get close to Lex Luthor and you have a conversation with him, he can verbally break you down in 15 seconds or less and make you commit suicide due to sheer willpower alone. He can manipulate you to die right on the spot because he had a conversation with you. That is some serious imposing shit. Guess what? Jesse Eisenberg embodied none of this as Lex Luthor. He mailed someone in the Senate a jar of piss because of I think it was a metaphor, or maybe it was some quote that he took to literal, I don't know. He delivered someone a jar of piss, and I think she made some sort of reference saying that, well, you have to take the piss out of life or something like that. I'm just paraphrasing, but he mailed her a piss bomb. And he blew up the Senate with a piss bomb because of what someone said to him earlier as advice. This is your Lex Luthor, everyone. Your childlike, egomaniacal terrorist. What a crock. Let's talk about the poor pacing of Batman v Superman, because it was hard to really watch this movie. The more I watched it, the more I just got bored. The entire plot point is Batman and Superman in conflict. And I get that. I get that this is Batman's anger management therapy session gone wrong, and he needs to punch a Superman speed bag. It seems like there's portions of this movie that really feel like they're hamming it on way too much. It seems like they're trying their best to have Batman have these nightmares. I mean, Bruce Wayne have all these nightmares about what happens if Superman was actually an authoritarian and he was coming after him, so to speak. He was coming to kill him in certain dream sequences. There was certain flashbacks and filler points that made zero sense, or you spend a lot of quality time with Jesse Eisenberg really trying to be the anchor here to Batman and Superman's conflict. Like, it's really just dragged on constantly over and over again till you get to that climactic point where it's like, okay, they have to fight now because Jesse Eisenberg forced them to. He has the master hand, he has all the cards in play, and now he kidnapped Clark's mom, so he has to do something about it. Or you have scenes where Superman is, of course, gallivanting around with Lois Lane either at the Daily Planet or at home. It sets up this exposition that we already know about. Yes, we know he loves her, but once again, it can set up something more interesting in terms of the conflict instead of all this stupid garbage, all this shit with Superman, all this shit with Batman, all this gallivanting around doing nothing. I never seen a superhero movie where the characters are 90% inactive. It doesn't make any sense to me. And once again, some of the stuff could have been left on the cutting room floor. Maybe these side characters could have been in a little bit more peril instead of just being chess pieces on the board, having no use, having no expendable play. I just don't get how they structured this movie, and it's not interesting in the slightest when they do these things with these characters at hand. Do stuff that we already know about. Do something interesting for once. I will say, even though I didn't like the Jimmy Olsen scene, it was great that he just wasn't a folly to fucking Lois Lane. But not like his death matters, because a lot of Superman characters in this movie and Superman himself, they feel the most paper thin, like they don't even exist to the backdrop at all, until Clark finally confronts Lex Luthor and he figures out that he kidnapped his mom. That's the only point where you can sort of resonate with what Superman is going through, although I don't think it was much substance there to begin with. And I didn't resonate with anything that was going on with the Superman subplots. It didn't feel like there was any danger. This movie was just setting up Batman at its finest, and even there, we don't even know what's going on with the whole Flashpoint thing that they show in Bruce's dream, where Barry comes out of nowhere, a future Barry obviously, and he warns Bruce about a certain particular event. Now, it's clear that Dawn of Justice in the subtitle is setting up for future movies in the DCEU. Now, we already have The Flash having Flashpoint, we already have Justice League, so it feels like they had to shoehorn in all these references. They had to shoehorn in Diana finding the laptop and showing off all these members of the Justice League. You got The Flash, you got Aquaman, all that. There's a time where references, Easter eggs, and cool events happen that sets up other movies, but I feel as though the DCEU really is phoning it in, shoehorning it in, and it felt like that with Batman v Superman. They were taking the main setup and trying to make it equivalent to something like an Avengers, like, ooh, I noticed that right there. However, they didn't set up the main crux of the plot. It seems like there were key points missing. With all this filler, with all this focus on characters that are really paper thin, why didn't they focus on some conflict with Bruce actually going out of his way and killing people? Like, what is the deal behind it other than the fact that the Joker presumably killed Jason Todd off somewhere and Batman knocked his teeth out? We have no explanation of that scene, even though it was pretty much heavily implied. This is the reason why Batman is so jaded in the DCEU. But no setup, no face, no case, no context. I mean, as much as I think about Batman v Superman, it did so many things to annoy me. It's like the directors and developers and publishers behind this movie just decided to go and insert their anus over a giant gear shaft and take a shit all over everything that was the foundation of Batman v Superman. There's so many side plots going on. There's so much shit going on that is just uninteresting to the main course of action. And I really despise that. It really made me angry. It was like, I know Wonder Woman is great and all, but really, is she any more pertinent to this movie than anyone else? And the answer was no. Wonder Woman came in, she flirted with Bruce at a ballroom dance, and then she came in at the end of the movie, and that was it. That was where she was used to be the most important, fighting Doomsday, who is a resurrected General Zod. Then Superman dies, which is beat for beat from the Death of Superman comics. Then he comes back to life, and credits roll. A really, really disappointing film altogether. And a lot of people like to defend the Martha scene. They like to say that it's a metaphorical leap in writing of Bruce Wayne finally seeing that Superman is humanized because he noticed the word Martha and he correlated it to his dead mom, and the alien cares for another, which ironically has the same name as his own mom. Shut up. Shut up about that. Oh my god, I hate that. That Martha scene was just so bad. You gotta admit it. A trigger word snap. That was the only thing they could write into that scene to make Batman stop. I think they could have made it to be more pertinent to Batman having this epiphany that he's about to go really over the edge. Maybe put I don't know. I'm trying to think about this. Maybe put, who is that bitch's name? Lois Lane in danger. Batman's about to kill her too, and then he realizes the error of his ways. They could have written that in so many straightforward but very metaphorical ways instead of saying a trigger word that relates to Bruce's dead mom, which I don't know why he would think that. I don't know why he would automatically assume that. I don't know why this scene in particular was written to be so poor, to stop a conflict that was anticlimactic anyway, but they decided to double down on that, which once again I don't think is as Shakespearean as fanboys like to believe. I'm just saying what I saw. A trigger word in a fight scene that happened and was written poorly. I think Batman could have saw the error of his ways. He could have saw the good in Superman written in a very well constructed manner that would have involved the loss of some human life. I think that would have been a lot better than just screaming Martha over and over and over again. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys about how I feel about the extended cut. It feels like DLC the movie, because it seems like to get the full experience of DCEU movies, you have to watch the 3-hour version, which, I mean, this movie seems like a slog already. I could get through Suicide Squad, no problem. I think you can rewatch that movie compared to Batman v Superman. I didn't like Suicide Squad that much, but this one felt like more of a slog with a theatrical cut in about 2 hours. So you expect me to sit there and watch 3 hours of Batman v Superman. Now, they might have fixed some stuff. I don't know what exactly, but Batman v Superman is just boring and disappointing, and they take off the focal points way too much. I don't get what went wrong here. It was pitch perfect. It was a pitch perfect idea of just having Batman and Superman at constant quarrel. And it is in the movie. They do have these conflicts there, but it feels like Superman is absent like the whole time. He's off doing his own thing. Then he's like a dick for a bit for no reason, which is out of character. Then he gets his ass beat, and then the movie ends on this giant sloppy fight, which leads up to the events of Justice League, the next movie after this. And I just did not like it. I wanted to like this movie hard. I really am a giant Batman fan. I have been in Batman medium for years in terms of covering it, in terms of playing like Batman Arkham games. I loved the Batman animated series. I am a giant Batman fan. I even enjoy some Superman comics. I enjoy Death of Superman. I remember reading it not too long ago, and I remember Doomsday just absolutely tearing through Justice League, and it was great. I cannot wait until they adapt Death of Superman. Ignore fucking Superman Doomsday, because get that garbage out of here. It is entirely non-canon to the comic as far as I am concerned. Honestly, I don't like how that movie cut corners, but that's another story for another day. And once again, they are adapting Death of Superman to the DCAU, so hooray. Go figure. I got what I wanted. Anyway, Batman v Superman, I think the failure and bad press of this movie is what created the effect of DCEU guys going off the fringe. I think that this movie caused a lot of people to be in denial if a DC movie fails, because, I mean, it's not like you are going out there and just shitting on the movie for no reason. I'm not shitting on the movie for no reason. I had something positive to say about it earlier before I went into the negatives. I think that the negatives are really important because it helps the DCEU in the future structure better movies. Justice League, apparently it's a pretty decent movie. I'm not gonna knock it for what it is. It has flaws, surely. Everything has flaws. Everything is not perfect. The MCU is not perfect. Nothing on this planet, to me, is perfect. There's always some flaw. If it's not going to come up now, it's going to come up later. That's how I feel about things. Even the games that I like video games, shit like that, they have flaws, inconsistencies. It happens. You have to really just be conscious and be aware. You can't overlook problems because of your fanaticism. And I think that's really important. That's where the fanaticism started with the DCEU, in my opinion. The failure of Batman v Superman. Because once the negative press happened, so many people were just in denial. How could a movie this massive fail? Why did the critics hate it? Why? It's a never-ending cycle, but I think Batman v Superman was just a missed opportunity at best. They had all the cards and decided to implement things that were really weird and questionable about the movie's plot, the premise. Everything seemed to be overlooked just to do what they want, which is probably not the best course of action in mind when it comes to quality control. You gotta have those homages and references in there, surely, but you can't have a boring movie that centers around two of DC's finest heroes, in my opinion, and that's where they screwed up. That fun factor, that entertainment being whisked away for some piss poor plot, that is where they screwed up. They drew the line, they crossed it, and now this movie just sits in the annals of time as being one of the most disappointing things that came out from the DCEU. And I thought Man of Steel was pretty disappointing, but yeah. And Ben is having an uncertain future about being Batman, so go figure yet again. I don't know what they could do. All I can say is that I really hope that DC learns from their mistakes. They really need to go and evaluate what made Wonder Woman so perfect. Why? Why was this movie so good to people? They kept everything cohesive. I think if they did more standalone stories that might tie into something at the end, working on those production values and keeping them solid while having something cohesive, that might help them out in the long run. I think once they start to veer off track and put in too much fluff, that's where DCEU movies start to go awry. Anyway, that is my thoughts on Batman v Superman. This giant 20-minute discussion or so. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, if you liked the video, thumbs up. If you disliked the video, thumbs down. If you liked the comment, come by, tell me your thoughts. If not, well, I hope you had an enjoyable time watching. And I will see you guys next time. This will be my last video before Thanksgiving break. I will be back sometime in December with my Punisher review and Daredevil Season 2 review, so you can expect me to work on that sometime soon. I will see you guys next time. Later.